Hi, I'm Peter Haddock and I'm here at the National Highways event, Net Zero and Innovation event. And I've found Malcolm Dare. Malcolm, you have a huge title and a huge role. I'm going to let you explain what that is. But we're here today, not just at the event, but to see the development centre here right behind us. This is really important because what you're doing as National Highways is you're enabling innovation, you're enabling change and working with the industry. And as a major part of that industry that's giving out billions of pounds worth of work, it's really important that we go working together, we can achieve net zero, isn't it?
So what we're doing today is we're trying to catalyse change around how does the sector deliver net zero.
Yeah.
And we've got road period 2, which runs to 2025. We've got road period 3 coming up. And if we don't get the carbon agenda right, then it's going to become very hard to continue the level of investment that we need to help develop the road network for the country.
And that's really important. You've made a big statement, 2050 net zero. Now, as an organisation that is an enabling organisation for all these projects to happen, a lot of that has got to be delivered by your supply chain. And in order to do that, things have got to change, haven't they?
If you look at our revenue, the money we get from the government, 80% of that is spent with the supply base.
Right.
All the major schemes, even down to small schemes, are delivered by the supply chain at varying levels. So what we've got to help people do is work out how we do this.
Yeah.
So if you take, say, plant, it tends to be all diesel today. Biofuel, yeah, that's coming in, but that's not the end result. So how do we help the industry catalyse a next generation of plant that isn't powered by fossil fuel, that is ready and being used by 2030? Because our target is no fossil fuel plant by 2030.
Which is only down the road, folks, as we talk here now. And this development centre is part of that journey, isn't it? Because, you know, you're saying to people, we want innovation to be brought to us by our supply chain, and we want to work with innovators to see how they can make innovations work in a practical sense on site. Innovations are great. If they don't work in the rain when you're on a highways project, delivering something with a very tight timescale, it's great to have innovation, but not if it doesn't work and it's not relevant.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do here is have the facility that allows us to try things, to prove they work, so that when we put them on the scheme, we know they work. Because we don't have the luxury of putting something on a road network and finding it doesn't work later on. And a lot of the innovation is going to come from tier 2s, tier 3s, as well as I think a lot of innovation will come from new entrants to the industry.
Yeah.
And if we can help people experiment in a risk-free way, that helps develop the product so we know it's going to work, fantastic. This is what other industries do.
Yeah.
A lot of other industries have facilities like this. A lot of other industries develop the technology offline and then work out, once they know the technology works, which project you cut it in on. And so what we've got to get to is talking about innovations, knowing it works, and then being able to say, and this innovation is going on this project on this time, and it works and benefits the public.
And that's something you have done. I mean, you know, the one thing that's really impressed me with National Highways and your previous name as Highways England when it came through is the mandating of 3D machine control. That's something that's went through on the A14. It was a huge success, a project in the UK, folks, delivered early and under budget, a phenomenal achievement. And you know that learning has come through, and learning is a big part of it, isn't it? Sharing that knowledge between your partners and the organisations, and freely doing so that people can be better.
There's no value in an organisation keeping something locked away and not sharing it if it's to benefit everyone. Clearly people want to compete, they're going to have their own areas of competition, that's fine. But what we've got to do as National Highways is catalyse that change and keep on raising the bar. So a lot of the work we're doing with supply base is about helping people look at other industries, see what other industries have been doing, and then adopt those techniques. So you take something like lean. You know, I've come out of manufacturing, I've worked in shipbuilding, for instance.
Right.
Even in shipbuilding, lean was being used heavily to improve the way things were done. And yet in the sector, we don't really use lean too well, or as much as we should. And yet lean's been around 20, 30, 40 years. So if we can help people catalyse the introduction of lean through tier 1s to tier 2s to tier 3s, everyone wins. Productivity goes up, we deliver things early and under budget. People get a benefit because they'll help to grow their margins, which in the increased margins are going to be reinvested in a virtuous way to help make the sector more productive and drive quicker, better, higher quality performance.
And I talk a lot, Malcolm, about the connected worksite, and the connected worksite goes from the concept of what you're trying to do, all the way through to the demolition of an old structure or road in this case, that then gets recycled out with all of the utilities mapped in 3D and so that you can deliver something that actually works. And now when you're talking about the connected work site, it starts with you connecting the industry, and it starts with saying we want to do things better, but it starts with adopting 3D machine control and 3D modeling and delivering what I call a just-in-time ability for us to look at a site, what's happening on it, and put assets in the right space so they're not idling and we're not wasting carbon and we're not burning fuel when we shouldn't be.
Again, you look at other industries have worked this out. The number I always get quoted when pre-COVID, when I get around sites, the number was always quoted was, utilisation of equipment was 30%. And yet in a factory environment, if you're running a factory at 30%, you'll be fine. You've got to be running at, 85, 95%.
Yeah.
So if we can use the technology, if we can use that thinking, if we spend a lot more time in the design, demand and planning phases, we will get more efficient when we hit the ground. And the best example I heard of was a company that built the jetty down in the Antarctic. Now, there's not a shop just down the road.
No.
Everything went down on the ship. Everything was done by digital twin. Everything was practiced and rehearsed. And there was a slight delay in the start, but they ended up finishing it on time. And that was where they had no safety net in the sense of being able to nip down the road and buy some more equipment. So if we can, if as a country and as a company in the country can do that in the Antarctic, that's all we're trying to do on the road network. Try it, model it, experiment, get it right. So when we go on the ground, things happen smoothly and quickly.
Yeah, and of course we have got one great thing in the UK which does come up a bit of a cropper when you do all these things. It's called the weather.
I mean, one of the good schemes, the M4, Balfour Beatty on the M4, they've done a phenomenal number of bridge replacements, and they model them all digitally, days, weeks before, so they know exactly what they're doing when they come to do it on the ground. If you take stuff like the weather, long-range forecasting is good.
Yep.
And so if we're doing things in the digital environment and we understand what it is, then adjusting and changing and planning for that information should be relatively straightforward. Many industries do that. Many industries do that. So the challenge is, how do we do that in the highway sector?
It's not just about all of the technology element. We're talking about social value and things like that. This is a people industry, isn't it, Malcolm?
Yeah, I mean, social value is massive. I mean, just on the public procurement law, 10% of all evaluations now have to factor in social value. Where you've got 1 million plus job vacancies. And I look at my son, who's, he plays on Xbox as much as anyone else does. Is he going to want to work on a muddy building site, live in a caravan away from home 4 or 5 days a week? No. But the technology now on stuff like plant, why is it in the middle of Australia when they're operating mines out there, the plant is driven and operated by people sitting in an air-conditioned office in Perth?
Exactly.
So why can't we evolve technology where we're attracting a younger generation because it's tech-savvy stuff that people are used to, rather than staying with the way we've done it? We've got to make that change if we're to attract that diversity. And we've got to get the diversity in the industry as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I mean, I've reported on things like the CAT command station, where you can literally, in Arizona from the UK, have a big D11 dozer operating. But there's a lot of that sort of technology coming around. And that's another way I see for people mentoring operators. When you've got simulators, when you've got stations like that, and there's a skilled operator working and mentoring another young entrant or retrained individual into the industry. Because this is what it's all about today. We're seeing people not on Zoom, like you said earlier, cut off at the head.
That's good.
We're seeing people in the flesh, we're sharing ideas, and that's what innovation is all about. It's about people coming together, having conversations, and that little spark that happens, and this development centre that takes that through, is all part of your investment, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and we've got to, we have such a large amount of money from the taxpayer to improve the road network. We also have to catalyse change within the industry for the better. So productivity goes up, social value goes up. We're really hitting out the park, the carbon agenda targets. If we don't do that with the money that we're investing, then you have to question, should we get more investment going forward? But you look at what's available, you look at the thinking that's coming together, and it should be doable.
It certainly is. It certainly feels like it today, Malcolm, and we certainly had some excellent speakers here as well. And for me, it's the first time at the Development Centre. I'm looking forward to coming back and seeing some innovations in the future. Thanks very much for your time.
No worries.
Cheers.